Hey, how's it going, Salvan?
Oh, how are you, teacher?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, teacher.
Fantastic. I think this is your first time in my class.
Yes, teacher, absolutely, yes.
Well, welcome. My name is Farhan. Um, I live in the US, and what about you?
Yes, teacher, my name is Zaiban. I live in Iraq, in north part. I live in Kurdistan region
Hmm.
from Iraq.
Are you from the city of uh, Erbil or Arbil?
Oh, yes. No, uh, I live in other city that is called The Hague.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
I
teacher.
haven't I haven't heard of that city yet. I know Arbil, Mosul, uh, I think also Kirkuk. Is Kirkuk in Iraqi Kurdistan?
Yes, Skarkuk, we have argued this argue between Kurdish and Arabic. We say the Kirkuk is originally from Kurdistan, but the Iraqi regime they fight us and they kick uh, out Kurdish from Kirkuk.
Uh-huh.
That is originally from Kurdistan, but right now it's the authority. I mean, the RP Kirkuk right now it's from Iraq.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I know very little about that part of the world. When I was traveling in Turkey, I met a lot of people who speak, who are Kurdish people, and they speak, Kurdish. So it was very interesting for me because I speak Farsi. So um, there are similarities between Farsi and Kurdish, I think.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, teacher. Yes,
Yeah, yeah. So it was very interesting to see the relationship. I was actually I was in Istanbul and I was about to get on a bus. I was going to another part of the city, and there was a small child there who, they saw me and they realized that I'm not from Turkey, because my parents are from Bangladesh, so I look like somebody from that part of the world. But so this child asked me, where are you from? I said, oh, I'm from, Bangladesh or something like that. And he didn't understand me, so he was asking me, do you speak Turkish? I said, very little. He said, do you speak anything else? I said, I speak Farsi, you know. And he told me, oh no, that's awesome. Our language is very similar to Farsi. And he said um, his friend could speak a little bit of English. So his friend told me, can you please count from 1 to 10? So I said, sure. Yek, do, se, chahar, panch, shish. And it's similar, I think, to what they say in Kurdish.
yes, yes, teacher.
Yeah,
Ek,
yeah.
dو, سه، چهار، پنج، شش، هفت، هشت، نه، ده. It's Kurdish.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So, and those children were so amazed by that. They told their father was a bus driver, right? So when I was about to board the bus, I was about to put money in the box for the bus fare. The father said, "No, you don't need to pay," because because I could speak just a little bit of Kurdish. Just I mean, I spoke Farsi. I didn't even speak Kurdish, but because I could speak their language just a little bit, he said, "No, brother, no money for you."
Yes,
So
teacher. Yes. Actually, it's traditional in here in Kurdistan when see another is related or maybe you know someone in a restaurant or bus or another place. You say, "Oh, you shouldn't pay any money. I mean, you shouldn't pay money. I will
yeah,
pay instead you."
yeah, it was very kind, very, very, very nice people from what I could see. People when I was in Turkey, when I was traveling in different countries in the Middle East, they would ask me, what is your name? I would say, Farhan. They would say, are you Muslim? Yes. Oh, okay. That would open everything. I mean, they're very nice to everybody, but once they hear maybe somebody who's foreign is Muslim traveling alone, younger person, uh, they open their homes to you. I mean, food, anything you want, they can they bring to you. So.
Yes, teacher, absolutely. We,
Yeah,
we should follow our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He say
yeah,
that a Muslim, brother, he should. I mean, someone love for himself should love for another for his brother in Islam. So
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
we should love each other.
Yeah, absolutely. It was very nice to see that, and I mean, they loved humanity in general. Anybody who was coming with them, sometimes I had, two or three friends of mine who were, from different countries. They would be, they were extremely nice to all of us, but I think they had a special degree of respect for, people who could speak their language and understand their culture. It was very, very nice to see that. So. Um, Thanks for sharing, Saiban. I hope you join us for more classes in the future as well. Um, and let's see, Ken, how's it going, my friend?
Yes, yes. Hello, how are you? Yeah,
Good, good, good.
yes. I just came back, so.
Nice, nice. Welcome back, welcome back. And we also have a new student from my perspective. Hey, Tony, how's it going?
Hi, teacher.
So, Tony, where are you from?
I'm from China.
You're from China. Fantastic. My name is Farhan. I'm from the United States. I think this is your first time in my class, Tony.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Well, welcome, welcome.
Nice to
Um,
meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Have you guys met each other? Saiban, have you met Tony? Have you guys met Ken?
No, teacher, it's the first time.
Okay. You guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves maybe just for a little bit.
Okay, teacher.
Sure, sure.
I'm Sayman from Kurdistan region, from Iraq, and I am traffic commissioner. I graduated business administration 2 years ago, and I joined the class to be stronger in English language. That's all.
Fantastic. No, thank you, Saiban. Tony, can you tell us about yourself a little bit?
Okay, I'm from China, but now I'm in Japan. I'm working here. I'm
Uh-huh.
a, I'm a programmer.
Awesome. Fantastic. So you're one of those big, like technical guys, a lot of coding background probably, right?
Hello, everybody.
Hey, how's it going,
Sorry for
Giorgio?
sorry for the delay.
No problems, no problems. Where are you from?
I'm from Italy, south of Italy.
Oh, fantastic. Naples? Or no, Naples is not
Naples, yes.
Oh, really? Naples?
Naples,
Okay.
yes, yes. You got it.
Fantastic, fantastic. Welcome to class, guys. Just a brief introduction. My name is Farhan. I'm from the United States. I've been teaching on Colingo for maybe 2.5 months now. So, let me know whenever you guys have any questions about anything. Today's class is actually a little bit more complicated. The grammar aspect of the class is a little bit more complicated than we normally see. Um, so the topic we are going to be looking at is the future perfect, right? So commonly, even among native speakers in English, we don't use the future perfect as much as we use the normal future tense, right? So it's something that you won't encounter in normal conversation, but it's important to know because you will see it in reading. You'll probably see it in newspapers. If you read literature, all of those aspects will include the future perfect, right? And also, the future perfect tense combines a lot of a lot of important grammar from other parts of English grammar. So learning the future perfect allows you to review a lot of those important concepts, right? So what is the future perfect, right? The future perfect in English is when we are discussing, when we want to talk about something that will happen before another action in the future, right? Or something that will happen by a particular time in the future, right? So people use the future perfect to compare two things in the future. Something A will happen before something B, right? Or something A will be finished by some time B, right? And there are two ways to make the future perfect in English, right? Two of the main ways that we make the future perfect in English, right? The first way is if we use the will construction, right? Uh, Giorgio, there seems to be some
Yes.
sound in the back. I'm not sure if it's from your
Yes. Yes.
machine. Yeah, let us know.
Yes.
Let us know. Let us know if you can't hear us, because I think maybe there might have been a problem with that. Okay.
Okay.
Regardless, guys, no problems. The first way that we construct the future perfect is we use the will construction, and the will construction is actually, the formula. It looks like this. So I'm going to paste this in the chat window. You guys can take a look. So the will construction is, first we use the word will. We can also say will not if we want to make it negative. Then we have the word have, and then we have the past participle, right? So this is the first way to make the future perfect. Will or will not plus have plus a past participle, right? So remember, the whole idea behind the future perfect is you are talking about something A happening before something B, or something A happening by some time B, right? Sometime in the future. So what is an example of this? I can give you guys an example. So I can say, we will have, we, the people in this class, we will have learned is the past participle, right? We will have learned about the future perfect by the end of this class, right? So I'm talking about something in the future, which is learning the future perfect, and finishing it by a time in the future, by the end of this class, right? So in the next 45 minutes, right? So we will have learned about the future perfect by the end of this class. This is the basic way that we construct future perfect using the will construction, using will, right? Any questions on that so far, guys? Everything's okay?
I
Saiba?
always confused about this
Uh-huh.
tense, and the
Uh-huh.
action happened in the past.
No,
And
the action is still gonna, the action is something that is happening in the future, because, or you're in the process of performing that action, right? You're saying that this action will be done by a time in the future.
so what is the difference between the simple future?
In terms of meaning, there's very little difference, right? From what I can understand, if you use just the normal future, the simple future, we will finish this, we will finish future perfect by the end of this class, or we will learn about future perfect by the end of this class, right? There's really no difference in meaning. In meaning, there's no difference. But when we are using we will have learned, we are emphasizing the fact that this is an action that is happening before that time in the future, right? Before the end of the class. That is really the only difference that I can tell in terms of why we have the perfect, and in the simple future, obviously we don't have the perfect. So the perfect emphasizes that the action will be complete by a certain time, right? I think that's the main difference, right? So yeah, but that was a really good question. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you very much.
no worries. You're welcome. So that's the first way we make the future perfect, right? Using the word will. You can also use the phrase going to make the future perfect. You can use will, or you can use going to, right? So how do we use going to? The construction, the formula looks like this. The formula is, you have a subject, you have a subject, and then you have is, am, are. You have the verb to be, right? What is the verb to be? The verb to be is I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, you all are, or you are again, right? That is what we mean by the verb to be, right? I am here, he is there, he is, that's his status, to be, right? So you use the subject, then the verb to be, then you say going to have, and then you say a past participle, right? So for example, I am going to have finished my homework by 7 o'clock, right? I am going to have finished Finished is the past participle. My homework by 7 o'clock, right? So
And
that. Go ahead.
they are equivalent. We can use both of them in the same always.
Yes, there's no difference in meaning, right?
Okay.
Simply in terms of preference. If you wish to use the going to construction, you can use that. If you want to use the will construction, you can use that as well, right?
Okay.
So there's no difference in meaning, exactly. Saiban, I like your question, or I like your sentence that you wrote here. Except there's one problem, right? You're writing, I will have finished the Jane Eyre story by next week, right? We have to use a past participle. So you don't have a past participle in your example. You have just the verb. So how can we change that? You just need to make one change to that.
Finish it, teacher.
Yeah, I will have finished, right? So all you need to do is make finish into finished, right? That makes it the past participle. So I will have finished, and then you want to put the Jane Eyre story, right? Just because we are introducing a new article or we're introducing a new topic, we need to have an article in the beginning. So we should use the, right? I will have finished the Jane Eyre story by next week. Fantastic, right? Besides those, besides those two letters for the ed for finished, the sentence is 100% correct. So this is the idea behind the future perfect, right? We have two constructions, the will and the going to. So I have a question for you guys, right? What will you guys have finished by later today or by later tonight? Just tell me something from your life that you will have finished or that you are going to have finished by later today or later tonight. Let's start with Ken on the left.
Okay. By the time the end of this day, I will have finished eating dinner.
By the end of the day,
By the
right?
end of the day, yes.
By the end of the day, I will have finished eating dinner.
Eating dinner.
Right? Yeah, because you can't have two past participles one after the other. Right?
I will have. Yeah, that's right. I will have finished eating. Yes, finished eating. Yes.
I will have finished eating the dinner. Or you can even say, I will have eaten my dinner. You don't have to
Okay.
necessarily use finished, right?
Okay.
Or you can say, I will have eaten dinner by the end of the day, or by the end of the day, I will have eaten dinner, right? So that's the main idea behind these constructions, right? You have that will, the have, the past participle, or you have the verb to be, then, going to, and then have, and then the past participle. Let's go to Giorgio. Giorgio, another example.
By the end of this month, I will have finished my software module I'm working on. The software model I'm working on.
Fantastic. By the end of this month, I will have finished the software module I am working on. Perfect. That was great. Let me just write this down. By the end of the month, I will have finished the software module that I am working on. Right? Fantastic. Do you guys have any questions about these two examples that we saw from Ken and also from Giorgio, like Tony and Saiban? No questions?
No question, teacher.
No questions before? Okay. So Saiban, it's now your turn. Let's give me another example of that.
Okay, teacher. I am going to have left my job or my work by the midnight.
I'm going to have. What was the past participle, Saiban?
I am going to have left.
Left. I'm going to have left. Fantastic. I'm going to have left my job or my duty, right? And then what was the last part?
By the midnight or by midnight.
By midnight, exactly. I am going to have left my job by midnight. Or you can also say, left my job sometimes feels, in English, if you say left my job, some people might think that it means that you are quitting, you are leaving your job, that you are no longer going to be working for your job, right?
Okay.
So it's actually better to say, for example, I'm going to have left for home. You want to go back home after your job, right? So I'm going to have left for home by midnight, right? So the idea is, your job is over, your job for the day is over, and you're going to have left for home.
Okay, teacher, thank you.
Fantastic. Tony, last but not least, something from you.
Okay, I'm going to learn I'm going to have learned a new lesson on Colingo by the midnight.
I'm going to have learned a new lesson on Colingo by midnight, right? Fantastic. So you guys, I think, understand the idea behind the future perfect very well. The construction difference between will and going to, right? Any questions about this part of the lesson so far?
No.
Everyone's good?
I heard going to is not commonly used for future perfect, and will is more used. Is it right?
I think that's fair. Yeah, Ken. I think that's fair to
Okay.
say because going to we say a lot. We use a lot in the simple future, right? Like I'm going to finish something. I'm going to do something, right? Future perfect once again really is not something that really I don't hear it in conversation. Maybe just the people I live with or the people my friends, we don't use it, but it's something simple. The simple future is much more common, and even in the simple future, we use will more than we use going to, I would say. But we definitely use going to in the simple future. In the future perfect, yeah, going to I don't think is as popular. And will is a little bit easier to make also, right? You don't have to worry about going to have and then also the verb to be. All of those things make it a little bit more complicated. So yeah, I think we can go with the will as being more common. So um, one of the things I wanted to talk about very briefly was when we are talking about the future perfect, right? We see the words by and in a lot, right? So what is the difference between by and in? By means that you are going to finish something. If you say you're going to finish something by sometime in the future, by means like that's the deadline. It will be no later than that time, right? So, for example, if Saiban says, "I will have left for home," I'm going to have left for home by midnight. That means that at 12:01, he's no longer at his job. He has already left for home, right? So it's a deadline. 12 o'clock, midnight is the deadline, right? So that's by indicates the deadline, by a certain time in the future. In, on the other hand, is talking about just a period of time. It's talking about a duration. It's not that specific, right? So if you say, I am going to have learned my Colingo lesson in the next few hours, right? It's not specific. You're just saying, that within the next 2 to 3 hours, yeah, or something like that.
We can, sorry teacher, we can connect the two sentences too, with two, in example, when I will be 60 years old, I will have left my work,
Yes.
my job.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You can add a lot of detail depending on what time in the future that you were talking about, right? You can also use, instead of by and in, you can use words like before and after, right? I mean, all of these words are related to time, right? So I will have learned my English lesson before I go to sleep. Whatever. Any of these examples, there are maybe hundreds of these examples that we can learn about, right? Or that we can use. Yeah, so that was a great question as well. Absolutely. By and in we see more commonly, but we can use as many examples of time in the future as we want in terms of making this making use of the future perfect. So great questions, guys. The next thing I want to talk about just very briefly is when we are talking about when we talk about the future perfect tense, right? Something that we should be aware of is you know, and I think Giorgio actually just touched on this. If we are talking about these words like when I am 60 years old, I will have left my job, right? They're native speakers sometimes don't realize that they're making a mistake, but when we use certain words like when, before, after, you know, as soon as, right? Some of these phrases. So I'm going to just quickly write these down. These are, we call these time expressions in English. When, while, before, after, by the time, as soon as, right? These are called time expressions. Time expressions cannot be associated with the future perfect directly. Time expressions cannot be associated with the future perfect directly. If we use a time expression in a sentence, right, that part of the sentence that includes this time expression, we call that part of the sentence the time clause, right? The time clause cannot have the future perfect. It's not possible. So the time clause can either have, well, the first way that we can make this work is if the time clause uses the simple present, right? Just the simple present. So I'm going to jump back to Giorgio's example, right? If Giorgio wants to say, you know, by the time I am 60 or when I am 60, then he should say in the present tense, when I am 60 years old, or by the time I am 60 years old, I will have retired from my job, right? Or I will have left my job. So look at how we made that sentence, right? I'm going to type this out. By the time, or when I reach 60 years of age, I will have retired from my job, right? When I reach 60 years of age, that part of the sentence is the time expression, or that part of the sentence is a time clause. See how there's no future perfect there, right?
Okay.
That is just the simple present. When I reach, when I go, when I am, right? That part of the sentence, no future perfect, just the simple present, right? Then the second part of the sentence, after the comma, is the future perfect. I will have retired from my job, right? That is the crucial difference, right? When we are talking about when, before, after, these time expressions, we have to be mindful of this type of construction.
Okay. I used the future in the first part of the sentence, so it was wrong.
It was wrong, but to me, it didn't sound wrong.
Okay.
Right? That's what I'm saying, Giorgio. When people listen in conversation, like the average American, the average British person, I can't speak of British people. I can speak of Americans, right? We don't really notice when I'll be 60. People say this all the time. When I'll be 60, I'll retire from my job. You know.
Okay.
But that's why it's good that you caught me, because I was thinking, yeah, I think that sounds right. But no, we do have a difference in this, right? And so when we see the time expression, we can make it the simple present, or we can do one other thing. We can do one other thing. We can also, instead of using the future perfect, we can just use the present perfect in the second part of the sentence, right? So you can say, yeah. So you can say, for example, yeah. I mean, it's more specific, but this is where I personally prefer just using the simple present in the time clause. It makes it a little bit easier to understand. So that's the example that you guys have there. Simple present first, within the time clause, and then the future perfect after that. Any questions, guys? I know that last part was a little bit complicated, but does it make sense? Tony, Saiban, Ken.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Let me know if you guys have questions. I know sometimes these grammar lessons are more complicated, so we might need more time. But definitely let me know. Okay. If we don't have any questions, then we are going to go ahead and start our article for today. So today's article is interesting for me because when we talk about technology, right, people always argue for more accessibility to technology, right? And especially in schools and in education, they want technology to be a bigger part. What we will learn today, though, from our lesson, from our article, is that it's not always a good idea to give technology in the hands of students, because students are creative and sometimes they do crazy things. So I just pasted the article link in the chat window, so please go ahead and open that up. And I will also screen share so that you guys can see the article on my screen. All right, hopefully this works. Okay, fantastic. So the article today is talking about Los Angeles, California. There was a plan to give every student an iPad, right? These are expensive things. I mean, each iPad is maybe, I don't know, $500 on average, right? So this was the idea, and we're going to read about what happened. So LA students get iPads, crack firewall, and play games. Los Angeles. Education officials in the nation's second largest school district are working to reboot a billion-dollar plan to put an iPad in the hands of each of their 650,000 students after an embarrassing glitch emerged when the first round of tablets went out. Instead of solving math problems or doing English homework, as administrators envisioned, more than 300 Los Angeles Unified School District students promptly cracked the security settings and started tweeting, posting to Facebook, and playing video games. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's really funny. I like this article for that. Temple Run, Subway Surfing, oh, and some car racing game I can't remember the name of, said freshman Stephanie Romero, laughing as she described the games she saw fellow Roosevelt High School students playing in class last week. That incident and related problems had both critics and supporters questioning this week whether LAUSD officials were being hasty or overreaching in their attempt to distribute an iPad to every student and teacher at the district's more than 1,000 campuses. So Los Angeles is a huge city. There are over 1,000 schools, and the plan was $1 billion plan to give every student and teacher an iPad, right? It doesn't seem like there was much planning that went into this strategy, said Renee Hobbs, director of the Harrington School of Communication and Media at the University of Rhode Island. That's where the debacle began. It's crucial, she said, to spend extensive time drawing students into a discussion on using iPads responsibly before handing them out, and of course, installing a firewall that can't be easily breached. At Roosevelt High School, it was the unanimous opinion of more than a dozen students that the school district's security setup was so weak that even the most tech-challenged parent could have gotten past it. It was so easy, said freshman Carlos Espinoza. He explained that all one needed to do was access the table settings, delete the profile established by the school district, and set up an internet connection. He did, he said, because he wanted to go on Facebook. They kind of should have known this would happen, said Espinoza's friend Maria Aguilera. We're high school students after all. I mean, come on, she added, right? As word spread with the speed of a microprocessor that anyone could crack the firewall, officials quickly confiscated the devices and put a freeze on using them off campus. In the meantime, they promised to improve the security settings. So the next two paragraphs are a little bit boring. I'm not going to be really talking about this, but we are going to talk about here, so under among them here, right? It's saying these are the ideas behind why they wanted this to be implemented, right? Why they wanted iPads. So these are some of the questions that people are asking. Who pays if a kid drops one of these $678 gadgets into a toilet or leaves it on a bus, right? Number one, that's the first question. Is it realistic to tell a student she can use it to do her homework, but then not allow the device to connect to the internet from home, right? So these iPads can't be connected to any other internet except the school's internet, right? Is that realistic? And since the tablet without web access is only as good as the educational software that's placed on it, how good is that software? I mean, what if the software is garbage, right? And this is the software that the students are forced to use on these iPads, right? So, and then school district officials have said that there was confusion. What if an iPad is accidentally broken, lost, or stolen? Are families going to be able to replace them? $678 is not like a small amount of money. That's a significant amount of money for some families especially. So, it's an interesting thing, right? When we talk about the software, one last thing that they're mentioning here is that there was no software program to support English as a second language students, right? Los Angeles has a huge population of Hispanic Americans, so a lot of people there speak Spanish as their first language. They don't speak English as their first language. 73% of students, right? So is it really realistic to say that these iPads are going to help people out, right? Especially help these students out. I think we can stop the conversation there in terms of me reading the article, and let's get the conversation started in terms of what you guys think. What do you guys take from this article? What's your reaction to this article? Let's start with Tony on the right.
A lot of money dropped.
A lot of money was wasted, right? We dropped a lot of money on this.
Yes, yes.
It's. I think it's crazy that it's not. I just feel like it's not. It doesn't make sense, right? I mean, Tony, what do you think?
I think it is difficult to limit the behavior of the students.
Uh-huh.
What software they want to use or not.
Exactly, right? It's difficult to control so many different things about this. I mean, I am very surprised that the school district didn't take these questions into consideration when they decided that they wanted to do this. I mean, iPads are still, you know, luxury items, I would say, for most Americans. Okay, like most Americans have maybe a laptop, maybe they have an iPhone or something like that. But having an iPad, it's another degree of luxury. People don't use a tablet computer all the time if they have a laptop, if they have a phone, right? So, Saibon, do you think they thought the strategy through? Do you think they actually considered all the options before they made the decision?
Oh, okay, teacher. I think they have a dark side and white side for this strategy. I mean, they have a good thing. For example, they don't use many boring equipment. They will not use equipment of office equipment like pencil or pen or book or notes. It is good, but I think it's huge, as you said, as you mentioned. It is huge, significant or huge money to spend for this purpose. So I think, teacher, it is good idea if they stay in just in home in school. I'm sorry, in school, not
Hmm.
leaving, not bringing with the students shouldn't bring the iPad to home because it will be very dangerous. Like they, as a article say, maybe as I article mentioned, maybe it's stale or living at with in the bus or
Hmm.
on the bus. So it's good strategy, but is if the student just using inside of school and have the school should limited the using of the iPad. I mean, don't use the internet.
I
So
know.
yeah,
It's a sticky situation, right? And I do like the fact that you mentioned that there's a white side to this, there's a dark side to this, right? In English, we use the expression it's a double-edged sword, right? So if something is a double-edged sword, it has an advantage, it also has a disadvantage, right? So,
yes, teacher.
you know,
Yes.
it's and that makes it's a very difficult, situation for them. Before we move on, I see that we have another student. Humud, I do remember you from before. How are you?
I'm fine.
Did
How
you
are
get a
you?
chance? I'm good, thank you. Did you get a chance to hear what we were talking about? Essentially, Los Angeles, California, they decided that they would be giving an iPad to all the students in their, there were many different schools, and the students found out how to pass the firewall, and they were able to play games and go to Facebook on their iPads. Do you think it's a smart idea, Hamoud, for a school to provide this kind of technology to every student?
I don't think so, especially for the elementary school students, because
Yeah.
because they will waste their time
Mhm.
playing the games,
Mhm.
and it is difficult to keep it to keep it in a good position, in a good situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Would this be so? Giorgio, would this be something that maybe a school in Naples? Do you think that they would ever consider something like this?
I don't think so. Here there are no money to supply the books for students. So
Really?
really, here everyone had to pay for books, for pens,
Uh-huh.
pencil, everything. So it's another world.
Wow.
Yes. Yes,
And,
yes, yes.
and
I
Ken,
think that yeah, I think that as I said before, that is a great waste of money because the iPad is a particular device with many features and used only for the learning. It could be substituted with a less expensive device and. Instead of using apps for these devices, I would have developed a learning system web-based, so the students could still continue to learn from homes, even not using tablets. It could be more flexible as a system, another thing is that the Apple, even if I am a fan of Apple, is a very closed system. So it's very hard to how can I say
to
to
like
close
integrate, maybe integrate, right? Uh-huh.
to harden the system, to close to put in security that system.
Mhm.
Probably on different devices with different operating systems, is possible to limit better the functionalities that have to be related to the users.
Sure, sure, sure. No, I think
Mm.
those are all great points. Ken, what do you think about this?
I think it has a too much problem. So either it's for the educational purpose, maybe student can get a chance to get iPad and how to control it. It's a kind of advantage, but how to control it very difficult and the cost is huge and yeah, a lot of problem will likely to happen. So I don't think it's a good idea. And I heard some other regions of America, I heard government support education, maybe local area support educational course. So some poor area of America, they skip the education of the class of gymnastic or art class or music class. So kind of, but maybe Los Angeles is a pretty big town, so many people live, so maybe they can get enough budget
See, the thing is,
to.
I think that's a great point, Ken, and they don't have the money. Honestly, California is in a very difficult financial situation right now. The school district of Los Angeles, right? Los Angeles County, that area is it's a part of the country that's not doing very well right now. I mean, I am very surprised that they were even able to consider this, this proposal, financially speaking, right? Because it's not doing so well. And I would be extremely surprised if the students who are given these iPads even have computers at home. If I think even having computers at home is a luxury for some of these families, for some of these students, right? I mean, shouldn't isn't it better for the school district, in my opinion, I also went to public school in the United States, right? Not in Los Angeles, but I went to public schools in, New York and, and like other parts of the country. Technology is it's a luxury, right? I mean, if you are giving state of the art $678 devices to every student, there are just too many liabilities there. Too many liabilities. I mean, why don't you start by saying, providing laptops to students, they're cheaper, they're much more accessible, they can take them home, you can control them better, right? They don't, I mean, there's just other aspects to this that I was very surprised that this even took place. Um, do you guys think so? So let's look at the future perfect in a little bit in this next question, right? Do you think is it realistic to believe that students will have found some kind of benefit or will have received some kind of benefit from this experience? You know, what is the cost-benefit analysis of this decision, right? Do you think, okay, so whatever, let's say the first day they didn't have a good firewall, they made a mistake. Now they make a better firewall, and they reintroduce the iPads to the students, right? So now the students can't get on Facebook, they can't play games, but they can use them when they are at home using the software that's on the iPad, and they can also connect to the internet at school. So let's say they make it better. Will the students have received value from this experiment, or do you still think it's a bad idea? What do you guys think? Let's start with Ken this time again. One more time. We're going to go left to right.
Even though it's a fire, it has a good firewall, but still have a problem if the kids lost its computer or the computer was stolen. Who pay for it? Who will pay for it? We
Probably the
have paid
families.
for it.
Probably the
Yeah,
families, right? Yeah.
that's a kind of too much burden for family.
I think it is too, absolutely. And how are they getting this money? They're getting this money from the taxpayers, right? So the public school, it is depending on the money from the California citizens, you know, California taxpayers, people in Los Angeles, right? And California, trust me, can use the money for other things. They don't need the money for iPads necessarily. Giorgio, what about you? Let's say everything is improved and they release these iPads back to the students. Will the students have received benefit? This is the future perfect.
Yes. I think the students will have not received benefits just because they will find another way to crack the devices.
Kids are smart, right? Kids are smart. Students are smart, you know.
Yes, yes.
We're talking about this is the generation post 2000 generation, right?
Yes, yes. And about the if they will broke or lost the device, I think that the government should introduce a sort of insurance on this device if they give to the hands of in the hands of students that are 15, 16 years old, so they can forget something or they are not. So then I think the government should plan to introduce some insurance.
Yeah, yeah. I think the idea of having insurance is definitely a good idea. But who knows? Maybe it'll just add to the cost, right? And Hamoud, what about you? Let's say they change the system, things are better. Will the students have received benefit? Hamoud, are you there? Maybe not. Hey, let's go to you. Let's go to you, Saiban.
Okay, teacher.
Yeah.
Yes, my point of view that I think for the high school student will have get used to technology. I mean, they will prepare ourselves for I mean their self for of I'm sorry themselves for the university because I think there are many technology used to in the university's education. So for high point for the high school student, it's good thing. They will have get used to use. I mean, get used to use the technology. But for primary school or the elementary school, I can say it's not good idea. They will have to wasted or the time, because as the article mentioned, they follow the Facebook, Twitter instead to or instead to studying. They follow the games. So it's my point of view.
Yeah. So should it be something that is given to the best students then? Saiban, I think you mentioned that, right? Maybe the students who are doing the most work, getting the highest scores, should they have this opportunity, or do you think it should be for all the high school students, let's say?
Excuse me, can you repeat your question? I'm sorry,
Sure,
teacher.
sure. No problem, no problem. Should this be something for all high school students or just the best high school students, do you think?
No, for all high school student,
For all the
uh,
high school students, okay.
that
But
they will admire to leave to learn everything, because it is new for student. If a student use the like the student I use iPad, they will admire to learning. They will
mhm,
admire to yes to follow the instruction for teachers instruction. So
mhm,
it will be benefit for and I think high school student, they are adult. I mean, they have a good idea, and they will just uh, prepare themselves to going to university. And I think
mhm.
for yes, that's my opinion of view.
That's great. No, that's great. I think that's a fair way, right? Maybe they should have started this process in the high school, and then generally, I don't think they should ever go to elementary school. I don't think it's appropriate for elementary school at all. Maybe middle school, maybe one grade, maybe the oldest kids in middle school, something like that, right? But high school, yeah, I think it's fair to say that that's a good place to start because, like we heard from Saiban, the students are more mature, they're older, they're more responsible, maybe, right? And that's something that we can work with. Tony, what do you think? Let's try to see if we can answer the question in the future perfect. Will the students have received benefit from this if they reintroduce it in a more with a better strategy? Do you think?
Okay, I think they will receive benefits from this experience.
Mm-hmm.
They
Well,
will have they will have uh, received uh, benefits.
exactly, exactly. They will have received. And how come? Do you think so? Do the advantages of using the iPad when it's in a controlled strategy, right? Are there more advantages than the disadvantages? If it's
Yes,
controlled. Uh-huh.
yes. If it's under the control,
Hmm.
so I mean, uh, let's think about the future. Maybe in the future, the mobile device will be very popular than now,
Hmm.
much more popular.
Hmm.
Uh, just like uh, every student in the school now has has books,
Hmm.
but in the future, maybe every student in the school will have a mobile device.
Hmm.
So maybe they should get used to the new device in their earlier age.
Uh-huh. I agree, and I think that was a big reason behind why they did this program in the first place, right? They wanted students to have experience with mobile technology, with software, and with just a new way of looking at learning, right? Because iPads are amazing, right? You look at the software, you look at the technology, the quality of the device is really beautiful, right? And you can use it as a teaching tool, right? Instead of books, you can have videos, you can have animations. See you later, Giorgio. Have a good one. You can use it for many different reasons like that, right? Um, so we only have a couple minutes left, guys. What do you guys think of this example? What do you guys think of, or I guess, do you guys have any final opinions or something you wanted to share? Mahmoud,
Yes, teacher.
go ahead, guys. Yeah.
I'm sorry, teacher, for interrupt. I'm
No, go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's Hamod turn, but I want just to comment. I have just comment.
Sure.
I want just talk about the education in my country. Unfortunately, and I said sadly and unfortunately, we don't have a good education in here. Unfortunately, people they although recently they have something they developing something, but it's not enough. I mean, people in here they graduated university, and even they don't have English. They can use English language. I mean, they can speak English. They can speak even Arabic, and unfortunately, it's not like in another country. And I hope so. My education in here in Kurdistan region, although they have something a few developed, but hopefully to have developed the process of education, because the education is very important for any society, for any country. Just I want to commit this here, teacher.
No, 100%, Saiban, 100%. I agree completely, and I thank you for sharing that. It's the reality also in my country. If you go to Bangladesh, if you go to some of the poorer countries in Asia, in South Asia, it's very difficult. I mean, people don't have access to books, just like we were hearing, from Giorgio. The society is corrupt. I mean, you get money, and the money goes to the government officials and not to the people. It's a sad truth in many parts of the world. Ken, were you also agreeing with Saiban when you were saying?
In terms of English education, yeah, a lot of people, we English education mandatory from middle school to university, but not so many Japanese can speak English. So I graduated from English course of the university, but most of the class, Japanese was spoken. So that's why I decided to go internet to learn English by myself. So kind of clearly English education here has problem, and circumstances, it's pretty rare for me to speak English in my daily life. So, and education systems plus environment is not suitable for mastering English here.
Absolutely, Tony. Did you want to say something else? I like this last comment.
Yeah, because I use internet to learn a lot of things like programming or math or other subjects. Also, of course, English here, so I like internet.
Yeah, you can really learn anything, right? The world is your classroom.
Yeah.
Right. If you use the internet, if you have access to the good websites and good resources and things like that. Anyway, guys, class is technically over. I know you guys may have other classes you want to go to. Thank you for a great class, guys. Saiban Antonio, it was a pleasure to have met you for the first time.
Thank you, teacher. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you guys are welcome.
Interesting class. Thank you very much, teacher.
You're welcome, Saiban. I appreciate that. Tony, same to you. Please, I hope to see you again sometime soon. As well as Ken, so all of you guys. And let me know if you guys have any questions, Facebook me, whatever, add me if you guys have questions. I would love to help you as a resource.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, guys.
Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.
Honestly, take care.
You too, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Kirkuk in Iraqi Kurdistan?
Yes, Kirkuk. We have argued this argue between Kurdish and Arabic. We say the Kirkuk is originally from Kurdistan, but the Iraqi regime they fight us and they kick out Kurdish from Kirkuk. That is originally from Kurdistan, but right now it's the authority. I mean, the RP Kirkuk right now it's from Iraq.
Interesting. Yeah, I know very little about that part of the world. When I was traveling in Turkey, I met a lot of people who speak, who are Kurdish people, and they speak, Kurdish. So it was very interesting for me because I speak Farsi. So um, there are similarities between Farsi and Kurdish, I think.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, teacher. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So it was very interesting to see the relationship. I was actually I was in Istanbul and I was about to get on a bus. I was going to another part of the city, and there was a small child there who, they saw me and they realized that I'm not from Turkey, because my parents are from Bangladesh, so I look like somebody from that part of the world. But so this child asked me, where are you from? I said, oh, I'm from, Bangladesh or, something like. Hey, how's it going, Salman?
How are you, teacher?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, teacher.
Fantastic. I think this is your first time in my class.
Yes, teacher. Absolutely, yes.
Well, welcome. My name is Farhan. Um, I live in the US, and what about you?
Yes, teacher. My name is Zayvan. I live in Iraq, in north part. I live in Kurdistan region
Hmm.
from Iraq.
Are you from the city of uh, Erbil or Arbil?
Oh yes, no, I live in other city that is called The Hague.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
I
teacher.
haven't I haven't heard of that city yet. I know Arbil, Mosul, uh, I think also Kirkuk. Is